live on YouTube. So thanks so much for joining us, guys. This is Lockdown Live. We've been doing this every day at 6 o'clock, and we've been catching up with loads of people in the industry just to hear how lockdown life is treating them, and you know what they've been up to, and how we think the electronic music industry can innovate, because they're strange times, aren't they?
Very strange indeed.
And today I'm joined by Archie Hamilton. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, not at all. So how's lockdown life treating you at the moment, other than the wine drinking and Aperol?
Well, listen, don't let me paint the bad picture myself there. I've not been drinking that much. But do you know what? It's been really good. I mean, the last couple of years of my life have been pretty hectic with a most ridiculous touring schedule. And this is something that I want to talk about later, because it's such a such a big topic conversation. But to be honest, the unexpected silver lining of this whole thing is I've had the most fantastic break from this crazy touring schedule, and I haven't made this much music in ever, because I haven't had the energy, or I've been too tired, or I've just simply not been here. Although I'm working from and I'll show you around in a sec, a much more compact, let's say, setup. I mean, I've not got any kit here at all. I'm just literally working from a laptop, some beautiful speakers, and a sound card.
So and literally your main piece of kit you needed, you were like, I need these three things, basically. That's my
let's just take some speakers. And I actually had this at home already, because this is my house.
Yeah.
And I have this set up here for if I wanted to listen to demos or prepare music for the weekend or whatever else. So I've got a setup here. I was very fortunately gifted the speakers by Focal at the DJ Awards about 2-3 years ago. Where's my little award? I've got an award here somewhere. Anyway, and so I've had this set up here since we've been living here, which is great. And you can make music on it. I've just got my VSTs and all my plugins. I've got Logic Pro.
Loads of people say it's all just in the sound design anyway. Like, if you know how to create the sounds, then you can change your setup.
Exactly. I think the key to making great music is simplicity, and making each element really work and stand out for itself. So. And the other thing is here is I've got terabytes of jams and stuff from kind of pieces that I've worked on before or whatever that have never been used. So I've got lots of great sounds and samples to work with. And there's a lot of hundreds of unfinished projects. When I woke up in the morning and thought, I'll make some music, and then and turn Logic on, and the phone rings, and that's it. The session's over.
Yeah.
But I've got a groove that I've started, and I've opened that and been like, that was sick. Why didn't I finish that?
What was I thinking? But
what was I thinking? Yeah.
Now we've got the time, which is amazing. So you find it quite easy to be creative at home then, in that space.
Super creative, and it's good because I think that's the other thing that's really important to switch up what you do, because you can very easily, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody, get stuck in your ways of you're using sounds that you always use, or grooves or whatever else, using references that you always use. But it's so key to keep your sound fresh by doing different things and trying different things. So being forced into this situation has actually been great,
Yeah.
And actually, do you know what? I often think that having sort of restrictions and parameters are actually very good for creativity. I think having too much freedom and too many things, access to too many options, can actually be stunting, in your creative process. But it's so much easier to be like, right, you've got these 5 things, make something sick. And you can. Exactly. And in this month or so, I've literally learned, mainly the Roland Cloud. If you make music and you don't have the Roland Cloud suite, get it.
So this
it's
is
amazing.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's fantastic because they basically every synthesizer that Roland, well-known synthesizer they've made, your like your SH101s, 808, 909, whatever else, they've got a VST of, and you pay £20 a month, which I think's very, very reasonable.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and you get everything, and every time they bring out a new one, like they just brought out the 303, you get that as a free update. As am I. But I would also say that's their version is not necessarily the best version.
Really?
They're the best. I mean, of VSTs, the best one, in my opinion, is by Audio Realism. It's called ABL3.
Oh, nice. Because I was going to ask, like, I am addicted to the 303, and I use Fossian. I'm Aperol Spritz. I wish I had
Yeah. The ice has melted now. It doesn't look as good.
It still looks pretty nice. Nice glass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with the Fossian D16 plugin.
Yeah, I use that too.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
But the only difficult thing I find with that is you can't. Let's say you make a really cool pattern using the internal sequencer. You can't, unless I'm very much mistaken, you can't export the MIDI.
Oh, do you know what? I've worked out a workaround, and I feel like it's going to.
Well, you bounce the audio.
Bounce the no, you can sort of reroute it, so then when the pattern's playing, you can then reroute it into another MIDI channel and actually record it. And when I found that
but is this an Ableton though, not Logic?
Oh, it's an Ableton.
That sounds like an Ableton thing, which yeah, but totally. But you could, okay, that's a good workaround actually.
Yeah,
but
sorry, I don't want to bore everyone with my MIDI rerouting. Yeah, no,
that's I guess it's for another time. Yeah.
Definitely. So show us around your house, your home.
Okay, yeah. So this is my little home setup. It's very basic, as I said. Literally 2 speakers and a sound card and 2 massive hard drives full of stuff, and then the wonderful world outside.
Yes, it's so nice for people to watch.
Exactly. And then basically I live between there and down here, which is my sort of kitchen living room area. I don't know if you.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's where you are.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I saw your massive vegetable delivery. The fresh.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that I've been doing during this time is because I love cooking, and actually.
Oh, really?
Before, and just amazing food, like things that I've wanted to do for ages. And so these guys, Wolf, massive plug here, but these guys, Wolf, friends of mine who run this beautiful restaurant in Stoke Newington called Wolf, what they've done is they basically they're selling like top notch fruit and veg and wine and whatever else, and delivering it, house to house, which is great in this time, obviously. So lots of cooking.
Amazing. So what is a typical lockdown day looking like for you? Are you pretty much creating most days, or how's
every day? Literally, I get up. I get up very pretty early, sort of 7:30, 8ish. That's the other thing. Having this time off, I've been getting fit. I've been doing exercise, which I just haven't been able to do. I haven't had the motivation to do. Which is great. So I get up early, exercise, and go for a walk. We're in Clapton. We've got Springfield Park here, which is beautiful. Go for a walk around the park, and then I come back. My missus works down in the kitchen where we just were. She's working from home, and I work up here, and I literally make music all day. And I have made so much music in the last month or so. I mean, literally in the last week, 2 weeks, I've just been on my SoundCloud, on my private SoundCloud, and I've just gone back. I've made 10 tracks in like 2 weeks. That's not bad.
Give me your tips, the creative tips.
It's all about not getting stuck on ideas for too long. I think, like, if something's not working, get rid of it. Because for me, the way I make music is, especially now where you haven't got that ability to jam as well, is getting that 16-bar loop perfect as quickly as possible. And there's lots of little like tips to that as well. one of which I learned from a guy called Ferro, Jasper Ferro, Dutch guy, if he's watching, which is, don't put the hi-hat in until the last element, right? Because as much as you think that it's the bass line that makes a track, it ain't, you know, because if you've got a really solid groove with kick, bass, drums, and some sort of stabs and whatever else, groove elements, and that's rolling, and you're grooving to that, and you don't need a hi-hat, then you've got a really good groove.
Yeah, sweet.
And then you add a hi-hat, and it's serious party time.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, this is lacking a bit. Let's bosh a hi-hat in, and then I'm like, yeah.
Exactly.
Actually, yeah, you're so right. That's a really
you got to build the groove from the ground up.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you know, that's the other thing, is not getting stuck in that loop as well. Like, if it sounds good, then start arranging as quickly as possible. I think a lot of the time people really struggle with arrangements, and that's what people always, like, one thing a lot of people always ask me is, or ask anyone, you know, what your arrangement tips. And the key is, the arrangement number one is ASAP, arrange as soon as possible, you know, as soon as you've got that element, because otherwise you'll sit there for days tweaking little elements. You know, the key is just do it, get out, you know, get going. Because
I reckon it's a lot of people's least favorite part. So
yeah, but you know, that's the other thing, and that is more of a sort of existential point of, like, you can very easily rewire the way you think about stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you can learn to love stuff. You know, that's the thing,
agree.
is you have to, like, change your mindset about things, because if you start saying and thinking, oh, I hate doing that, you're not going to enjoy it. Yeah. But if you start thinking, oh, I can't wait, this is sick, can't wait to arrange it, you know, you think of the end goal, like, I can't wait to hear this in full.
I'm getting some right nuggets from you already. I've got a question on the live chat, by the way, because going back to your cooking.
Yes.
What's your favourite meal to cook in isolation?
Favourite meal to cook in isolation? Okay, well, perhaps not my favourite, but my missus is absolutely. So we went basically vegetarian in January, and we've been kind of learning lots of recipes, vegetarian recipes and stuff like that. So one of the things that I've done is this lentil bolognese with courgette spaghetti. So yeah, I mean, not the most sort of exciting of all things, but it tastes. I mean, I can put the link up if anyone's interested of the recipe that we use.
I'm interested. I reckon a lot of people are going to be interested.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's amazing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's being vegetarian does teach you. You have to really kind of think about the recipes you wanna learn. Because you want to learn.
If you can nail that, like, you don't, the meat cravings just go away.
Yeah.
Because if you can nail it, like how to cook great vegetarian food or whatever, then you're just like, well, you don't need it.
Yeah, agreed. So I might go on to some more community questions. People from Instagram, Facebook reached out just to find out some more about you. So we've got standout 2000 gig or highlight from you. What was that?
Standout when? 2019?
Did I say 2019? Yeah, 2019.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's not many this year.
Yeah.
Very tough question, that. The Fuse birthday at the Fuse birthday after party is always like a real standout for me, because it's when all of us guys get together, especially at that venue, 93 Foot East, which is where the party started. That's just like, every year is just totally mind-blowing. And then 2019, I think that's got to be it, really. There's been some great ones.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, that's it. Like energy, like even the year before that, and it's just really a very special energy in there.
Amazing. Well, I just got another one through on the live. How do you make those bass lines? That's what someone's just said.
How do I make those bass lines? So at the moment, I'm using the SH101 plugin from Roland Cloud Suite, and I don't know. I mean, like that's the sound, And then the processing is also an important part of that. So some nice saturation, and depending on the kit you're using, perhaps some sidechain compression. But the thing for me that's really important is like variety. And so even if it's like a 4 beat, a 1 bar pattern,
yeah,
even spreading that pattern over 16 bars and ever so slightly changing those note lengths and humanizing the velocity of those notes as well, so it's not like exactly the same every time. And even on the VST itself, if you go onto the left hand side, I'm terrible with like the tech side of it, but there is an oscillator there where you can actually set like you can set modulation to the cutoff, so you'll get it to, and you can do it over quite a long or short
like
space,
quite subtly, and then
very subtle elements of opening and closing the cutoff. So it's like you get that human feel, because I think that's the most important part. It needs to feel live, otherwise it just feels too kind of machine, mechanical.
Yeah, so much about automation.
Sorry, I've just had a call from somebody. Sorry, I just had a call from someone.
That's all right.
How do I make it so that no one can call me?
I think you can pop it on night mode if you switch it down.
Night mode, that's the one.
I mean, that's what I've done. I'm hoping that works.
Cool. All right, I'm back.
You're like, guys, I'm live. Stop calling.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I've got another one.
Yeah.
From someone on Insta. What are your future plans for you and your labels?
Future plans for me and my labels. Myself. I'm just like making tons of music. So with regards to gigs, look, who knows? I'd love to get back in the clubs and I'd love to start playing again, but I understand the reality of the situation, so it is what it is. So my future plans are I'm just going to make tons and tons of music. I might not release it all. Let's see where that takes me, because the more you make, perhaps your sound develops. And so, with regards to that, let's see. With regards to label, we're going to really step up the release schedule and just start putting out tons of music, because I've got so many amazing demos from people and talented producers that I want to, give a platform to.
Yeah.
But over the years, it's been difficult because I've been so, I was going to say busy, but I'm going to say disorganized. And it's not easy, priority. It's not easy to plan a busy release schedule. And so I'm fortunate that I've got a really great team who work with me, who can help me with this stuff. But now I'm home, I can actually sit down and make a really good plan. So with regards to label, tons and tons of wicked new music is going to come out, which is great, from people like Azteca, Luca Donzelli, Dimish, Odin and Fatso, Charlie Banks, Euron Edwards.
It's a long list of great people.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's cool. And then me, I've basically been sat here doing like lots of remixes. I've been doing some edits.
Nice.
I've been doing music basically.
It's nice to switch it up a bit too, isn't it? Because you've got the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. Someone else has just said on the live chat, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen, but if all were to happen as it's supposed to, what parties are you looking forward to most after lockdown ends? It's a hard one.
What individual parties? I mean, I couldn't answer that. There's just too many. Yeah. All I can see right now, and like the only thing I can see right in front of me is wanting to be like with people again.
Yeah.
And in a club with people, listening to loud music, and feeling that you can only get in a rave or a nightclub where everybody's connected and something really special and magical happens.
I think it's going to be so much more special too, because everyone's going to be so excited.
It really is. I mean, can you imagine that first party? Like,
probably going to cry.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be very emotional. Because even without parties, imagine those first hugs that people are going to have that haven't seen each other. It's going to be really, really an amazing time for humanity. So yeah, I can't exactly answer that, but yeah, anything, please now.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple more from Insta and Facebook. How do you decide it's time to change the sound or take a different direction with music? That's quite interesting, actually.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever a conscious decision, really. It never has been with me. It's always really just been with what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And so I suppose if you look at the label's 10 years old now, and there's quite a bit of back catalogue to look back through. So if you look back, there's always like a fairly common signature that goes through the releases, but it kind of, I don't know, it kind of ebbs and flows into whether it's more upbeat or deep or minimal or whatever, you know. But I think that kind of, it just depends on what I'm feeling, really. It's never really a sort of conscious decision about, oh, I should do this because it needs changing up. Or do you know, actually, I had a conversation today with my kind of like crew who I work with, and basically we were saying, you know, the label's 10 years old. Basically we're getting such amazing demos and so many wicked artists who want to be part of the label. So to me, that kind of defines the sound, really. Is
demos you get on your desk and
demos,
really vibing on.
Great artists and stuff like that. People who've got really are excited to be part of it, and the energy, and I guess that really defines it, because then that defines me and what I'm into, and yeah, that's sort of it, really. It's you people who do it. You guys.
Not necessarily me, definitely them.
Them, you plural.
No, of course. And what is your favourite album of all time? This has come up twice now. So
yeah, favourite album of all time. It could be
a difficult one.
Left Field Leftism. I love Left Field, and I love that era of music, especially from the UK. That electronica, as it was known then. And I remember going to the record shop. I spent some part of my childhood in a place called Cheltenham, and I remember going to a record shop there and hearing, I can't remember what the reference track was, but I remember going in and being like, what do you call this kind of music, and where can I find more of it?
Give me more.
And he was, and he just said, look, it's like electronica, and it was like propeller heads, and it was like that whole kind of like rhythm and stealth from Left Field as well, you know. So I think Leftism, because there's a couple of tracks on there that just will always be absolute favourites of mine.
Yeah, you know, that's 2 days in a row we've talked about Left Field being really
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's true, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Fundamental for people that are sort of in our age range. It was just such a big part of us, our musical journey in a way. And how'd you get your hair like that?
It's my missus, I think. That's my missus winding me up. I haven't had a haircut for 5 weeks. I look like a newsreader from the 90s.
You know what? There's so many lockdown beards going on.
I know, yeah. I had to trim mine back today before the thing, because I thought you wouldn't be able to see my mouth moving.
Exactly. Oh my God, so many questions coming in before we move on. Someone's asked about how do you program your drum patterns, or what do you use to program your drum patterns?
Drum patterns. Well, another really good thing is in that Roland Cloud suite is their 909 VST for like hi-hats, snare patterns, stuff like that. Congos, and like I love hand drums, basically. Love them. I've got them pretty much all of my tracks. Programming that is for me actually I mean, I've tried all kinds of different things with regards to like your battery or machine and stuff like that, and I find I've really struggled to get that like raw live feel, and for me the best results I get are from sampling.
And chopping up samples.
I've got a turntable back there, and I've got a stack of vinyl here, and I literally just go through stuff, and even if it's just like 2 hits, and that's like half of a beat, and then 2 hits from another thing, but at least you get that like raw recorded feel. And then also with regards to keeping things interesting is so key, right? And my recommendation for that is let's say you've got 2 or 3. So here's one, like, don't ever use just one conga rhythm on one thing. Break it up into different 2 or 3 different channels, okay, and have you like maybe one of those channels is on an odd number of bars, so that every time it goes round, it's never sitting exactly as it was before. So you get this like nice live feel. Actually, having said, you can't get like I can't get good results from like programming of conga drums. The Logic Pro drummer feature is really good, I think.
Nice.
But yeah, so that, and also like panning stereo field is really key. And I've been discussing this or talking about this for a while since lockdown, about like potentially doing some production tutorial videos. I've got this sick technique that I came up with a couple of years ago for like what I call like basically just drum modulation, right? And I'll try and explain it now very briefly. So let's say you've got a channel with some drums on, hand drums, congas, bongos, whatever. Send some of that signal to a bus, and on that bus, I use a thing called the Super Trigger by Smart Electronics, which basically what it is like it's almost like a randomizer. So you send audio through it, and what it does is it only lets you can adjust the settings, but it will only let some sound through, or it will reverse some, or it will repeat some. It just basically messes up the whole thing, but it keeps it in time, and then send that through like a delay chat, like a series of delays or reverbs or whatever else. So you get like and then one like sound will go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
I reckon you should totally do some tutorials. The weird thing is, I was thinking he would be really good at production tutorials about a minute before you.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, okay, well, this is filling me with confidence. So perhaps I will.
Totally. It's
yeah. I need to. If anyone, it's the F-roll. I just have to like keep topped up. But if anyone's got any really good techniques or tips of how to do it well, please get in touch. Like DM me, because I'd love to know. Yeah,
100%. Right, we've got one more. They keep coming in. Where can people send demos to?
Send them to archiehamiltonmusic@gmail.com. And I'll do my best to get back to you.
Amazing.
And just don't like write something funny or personal, so I'm going to remember it, because I mean, if I look at my inbox today, I've got 375 unread emails. So just from
those are demos,
they're all demos. That's my demo inbox, right? So I'm not saying that I'm something crazy, but I've got a lot of demos. So just if you could write something to stick out, or put a funny picture in. Do you know what's actually, this guy called Jim, Aussie guy, if he's watching this is brilliant. He accidentally sent me some pictures of his he was trying to sell his washing machine, so he sent me his pictures of his washing machine. Yeah. Now I'm never going to forget Jim.
Jim, if you did that on purpose, it was a great idea.
No, I don't think he did. I don't think he did. But yeah, brilliant.
Bless him. Right, so we've been chatting to a lot of people about their most influential track that's sort of shaped their sound, and you sent one through, so I'm going to play it, and you can chat over it, you can chat after it, but my audio will go down for a little bit, just while I share this. Oh, and my phone will also go down apparently. While I share the screen. You might not be able to hear it too much on Instagram, but let's see what happens. Right.
So. Yeah, skip it forward a bit, because there's quite a long intro on it.
Yeah, I have actually.
Okay, you got it queued up then. Nice.
Here we go. Is it playing on your end?
I can't hear it. You can hear it. I can see you're dancing.
Well, the thing is, I think because we can't hear it on Instagram, but we can actually hear it through YouTube and
nice.
Facebook. But because I'm not sure how we can get around it without having an audio echo. But do you want to explain to people?
Yeah, spoiler alert. It's Octave 1 Blackwater, and the reason why it's the most influential track is because that was, I remember very, very distinctly being on the dance floor at Fabric at must have been 7 or 8 in the morning. And this is when Fabric was allowed to stay open till like whenever, 10, 11 midday. I remember standing there going like, please don't finish this party. And then this record came on, which I'd never heard before. And still now, and even when I was thinking about stuff when you asked me this, I've sort of like, I played it and it still brought these like emotions and like almost it makes me tear up, you know. And because I very distinctly remember thinking to myself, right, this is what I have to do. I'm going to have to work in, like, be a DJ or a producer or whatever. There's simply nothing else in this world that I could possibly do that will make me as happy as I am right now. Oh. And so that's the record.
Amazing. And you know what, I'm going to try it, because we were also going to ask you about your most played song in isolation. I'm going to try and play it out through my speakers. It's probably better to crank it up, even if there's going to be a bit of echo, because it's also such a beautiful song. Well,
just tell maybe put it in a link or something so people can click it, or they can put it on from home.
All right, tell us about your most played song in isolation.
Yes, so another like real passion of mine musically is, well, it started as sort of like what you might call, in the 90s it was called trip hop, down tempo electronica basically, which stemmed also from that left field sound, you know. But then it sort of developed into all kinds of different stuff, and you know, Spotify is just the most amazing tool for helping you find music, especially when you're on the road and you don't have the opportunity to go to record shops or dig or, you know, whatever else. But this one is Mulatu Astatke, and it's called I can't remember how do you pronounce it.
It's hard to pronounce.
Tzenka.
Yeah, I think it's Tzeta.
Tzeta, which means, and I've looked it up, which means nostalgia in Ethiopian. And if you listen to that, I mean, that track is the epitome of nostalgia, because it's got this like unbelievable ability to make you feel sad and happy at the same time.
I totally agree with you. And it's funny, when you sent the song over, it's one I've been listening to for so long, and it's on my like pensive, chilled playlist that you just want to listen to, like with a glass of red wine. It's
got this very like familiar feeling to it as well. I remember hearing it in it came on my Spotify and years ago when I was driving, and I just remember thinking like, I really recognize this, and it just goes on and on and on. It's basically the same loop with like slight changes. And if you think about it, it's very much like minimal, kind of the aesthetic of minimal techno and minimal music. It's like the same loop with ever so slightly different iterations and changes every, you know, that just keep you hooked and interested and fascinated.
So interesting when you, pardon me, produce music, how you just hear things in totally different ways, and you hear the layers and the loops, and yeah, it's awesome. So that's, because obviously we didn't play it, it's an Ethiopian jazz record basically.
Yes, exactly.
And a lot of people we've been speaking to have been saying, you know, they don't really listen to electronic music at home. Is that the same for you? What kind of playlist do you play at dinner and stuff?
If you go on my Spotify, I've got a couple of really good ones. One's called the After the Party playlist, which is just all that style of music, that like down tempo, instrumental hip hop, and basically, I mean, if you live and breathe house and techno music, then as much as you love it, I'm sorry to say, when you get home, it's the last thing you want to hear.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Because, you know, as fantastic as it is, you need a break, and that's what keeps it interesting. And what's more, as a producer, you get so much more inspiration and great ideas from listening to this music, you know. But you listen to something, and it's actually something that I woke up at like 3 a.m. a couple of weeks ago for no reason, just woke up, and then my mind started going, worrying about the world and the industry and what's life going to be like after this, and couldn't go back to sleep. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to like sit here stressing. So I came in here and I turned the computer on and started making music. And because of something I heard the day before, I was like, that's wicked. Like, I could definitely sample that or use that or something. And it literally did exactly that. And made, like, my missus woke up at like 9. And she's like, are you okay? What are you doing? And I was like, I'm really okay. Listen to this. So,
so many songs.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you love a good conga or like live percussion, all of that amazing Ethiopian music is so good for sampling.
That's exactly what I'm talking about where do you get your congas from. That's
Yeah.
right. That's it. Don't give too many secrets.
I was gonna say I probably shouldn't have said that. So we chatted a lot earlier, and I think it's a really we've been chatting a lot and to people about how the industry is going through a massive change at the moment, and how we think the future, or how we're going to emerge out of this, and what the future is going to hold. I mean, like, how have you thought much about how you think, you know, the end of 2020 and
Massively
2021 are going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that's come out of this, this has really shown how much we as artists, as DJs, as musicians, rely on touring and live performance for income and to support ourselves and enable us to continue creating and being artists. So, because, you know, it is essential for musicians at the moment to travel. And it's important as well for kind of like artistic cross-pollination. And what we really kind of need to do is figure out how to change that, because it's not just corona related, because we've seen how much the air quality has improved and how much, you know, people can see mountains from their cities now, and while kind of the world's on lockdown and no one can travel, no one can fly. But it's so crucial for artists to travel and perform, and for people to see and feel international talent, because, you know, otherwise within quite a short period of time, people's taste could become quite narrow-minded, you know, because if you only get to listen to people's music from your country, then, you know, that's all you have. And actually, it's not just about the music; it's about the cultural aspect as well. It's about, you know, you see a musician from a country you've never been to, and you're like, oh, that's what someone from that country, you know, sounds like, or whatever, you know. And it's, I mean, travel in life is so important in general. So I think actually, you know, the onus really falls on the powers that be, to be honest. I'm not sort of kind of shifting the blame, but we need to kind of figure out a way to travel, to fly, that doesn't rely on fossil fuels. And so we can travel with a zero emission. And if you look at the news today, oil is at zero and negative pricing. So I don't even know what that means. Yeah. What does that mean? I don't know what negative price. Does that mean that they're paying people to take it away?
Yeah, maybe. There's just no demand, which, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
It was going at $100 a barrel for so long.
Well, this is it.
Zero, negative.
But, you know, this is, in so many ways, this is what we've needed for years, because there's no political movement that could have had this effect to make the world stop like it has, you know, and had that profound effect on our environment and our society, to make people actually sit back and go, you know, there's no way that climate change deniers are going to be able to sit there and go now and be like, no, it definitely doesn't. Right, okay, mate, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So there's that. So, you know, we're going to have to figure out how to travel without having such a profound effect on the environment.
Yeah.
What's really going to be tough, I think, about the next few months, and this has been going on for quite some time, because we were getting to a point, really, I think, in the scene, the club scene, the music scene, the rave scene, whatever, where, you know, nightclubs, actual clubs in cities, your 300-400 cap venues, were just seeing less and less footfall, because people were more and more interested in like experiential type events, like your day parties where there's like confetti cannons and amazing laser shows and all this stuff. And I'm sorry to say, it becomes less and less about the music and more about the experience, right? And so with these smaller venues shutting down, the people who really suffer are that middle section of artists, you know, the sort of like the fantastic resident DJs who play in clubs week in, week out in smaller clubs, amazing DJs who might not necessarily be producers, because you kind of have to be a producer now, right, to be like a successful touring artist, because it seems to be the only way to really like promote yourself as an act. So I think that kind of like echelon of musical society will really suffer. Because if you think like the people who are making okay money on a week-to-week basis, but not enough to like fall back on like your huge artists who make tons of money, who can like weather the storm, and especially like I don't know, that kind of middle kind of section artists who, like especially ones who have families and young children, who realistically, I mean, God knows how long this will go on for, may have to go and find other work and other ways to support themselves. And even those nightclubs, the ones that are still open, are going to have to rethink the way they're doing things. Because if you think like, you've seen the red, amber and green way that things are going to open over the next few months. It's like restaurants and it's stuff like that, because restaurants are okay because the tables are separate, you know, far apart. So a lot of these nightclubs might turn into restaurants.
We're not clubbing anytime soon. It doesn't.
We're not clubbing anytime soon. Exactly. Yeah. And the sad thing is that a lot of these super talented people may be forced out. But the truth of it is this actually happens the whole time in music. And there's so many artists that I kind of came up with, many of them more talented than me, you know, as musicians, who aren't in the game anymore because they're not able to, well, let's say, especially recession events like these really accelerate the process.
Yeah. Okay.
And then what you're left with is like the big business, like the huge promotion companies and nightclubs and artists who have investors and stuff like that. And then at the end of it, you've got the new kids who haven't had their shot yet, who will emerge through and come through, exactly. But that middle class are the ones who suffer, you know. Yeah. And also you'll find the same thing with promoters. But the thing is, I know I sound like I'm sort of spreading doom and gloom, because it's not all doom and gloom. It's just a reality of life, okay? Yeah. Because others will spring up in their place, and it's, humans are social creatures. If you think about the one thing that humans have loved to do since the dawn of their existence, is gather together and dance to repetitive music, you know, around fires. We want to hang out and we want to dance and hug each other and love each other and whatever else, okay, and have a great time and forget about the hardships of life. So there will be a regeneration. The scene will survive. Yeah. And it's the new generation of underground acts will come through. But, you know, if you're thinking in terms of innovation, I actually think the live scene, in terms of like live performance, it won't innovate. It will just go back to clubs and small events, because they'll have to legally, you know. So if that middle section can hold on, then great, because small events will happen again and they'll boom, because that's really the only place where music will start up slowly again. And if you think, without sounding too kind of cliche, we will go back, and this happens like every 10 years. You go back to the raw elements of what makes this scene so amazing in the first place, which is dark rooms playing great music full of fantastic people. Yeah. And that's it. And actually, this needed to happen because we were moving into this, like, and you know, we're moving into this situation where it's like too industry focused. There's too many financial interests. There's too many vested interests there, and those need to be removed. And fresh talent needs to come through, and it needs to go, because the underground was never intended to be an industry. What we're in now, it was never supposed to be a music industry. It was the underground. The whole point of underground is it's not commercial, you know. But
and what do you? Sorry, just to touch on that, you know, what do you think?
Sorry, I'm ranting.
No, I love it. It's amazing. It's so important to have these conversations, you know, like what do you think the difference is in the artists that will have to drop, and, you know, not necessarily about talent? Is it to do with marketing? Is it to do with money behind them? Like,
absolutely. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs about people's financial situation, so I wouldn't like to comment on that, but I can tell you, like, if I thinking back to like when I was coming up, there were so many artists that I used to like swap music with and collaborate with, and who were so talented, but they didn't know how to promote themselves and how to market their music. And that's the really tough thing, is because the really successful artists aren't successful because they're the best artists or the best DJs. It's because they know how to market themselves the best, you know. And if you think about it, what we really rely on these days is the underground doesn't have a lot of budget for marketing. You know, you won't see like the next Archie Hamilton EP on a massive billboard in Shoreditch, like the you know, like the commercial scene does. So what we rely really heavily on now is social media. Okay, so but I you know, a lot of super talented artists are very self-conscious. I'm terrible at getting my personality across on my social media. It doesn't come naturally to me at all, and it doesn't for a lot of people. A lot of people are great at it, but there's so many super talented artists who can't get that, like, they're because these days people love music, of course, and they always will, but people love the story behind the music too, which they always have, and the personality, you know. So if you can't do that, I mean, this is the thing, these days you have to be, you don't, you know, you can be a great DJ, but you have to be a great DJ, a great producer, a marketing genius, a social media genius. Yeah, you know, I've like learned how to use iMovie and all this stuff to make all these like spinning graphics and things to promote our music on our labels. Yeah. I've never known how to do that, but like the skill set is just ridiculous now, what you have to know how to do. So it's the barriers to entry are super high, really. So yeah, I mean, but that's the other thing. If you think about it, in the old days, I mean, not that I lived in the old days, but you know, older than now, back then, you never had DJ producers. You had DJs and producers, two different things. And the reason that is because music was hard to make then. Before programs like Cubase and Ableton and Pro Tools and whatever else, we're talking about splicing tape together, right?
That is not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. And this is like a whole nother topic of conversation, because like, and this is something I always kind of like rant about, because like the production quality goes down, because I think that one of the things we really have to innovate is getting artists paid for their music, right? The music being played in public, because you know, even if a record was bad in those days, it would sell 2,000 copies, 4,000 copies. You times that by £3 or £4, it's a lot of money. Yeah. Right. And that's people were surviving of just being producers alone. Yeah. Which you cannot do now because of streaming and because of whatever else. And it's basically since the kind of death of the physical format, let's say, people have been trying to figure out how to make money from, you know, selling their music, selling their productions. It's, you know, and I remember when I first started getting started, people saying to me, "Oh, don't think of music as a money-making thing. It's a promotional tool. It's like your calling card. It's a business card." But that's just not right. No. You know, that's not right. You should be paid properly for your music. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you the answer to that question, because people have been trying to figure it out ever since basically the digital boom, and since people stopped buying CDs and records. So yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing, is like less music to producers, less money they have to invest in their records. If you think about like back to the disco days, these guys were commissioning orchestras, string musicians, session musicians to make their records, right? Yeah. In studio sessions that would go on for weeks, months at a time, and they had money to pay for it because people were spending money on records and they had an income for it. Yeah,
I would line up outside HMV, this is CDs now, for when a new album dropped, and I'd be like, yes, I've got this CD.
Absolutely.
20 quid, but now it's $7.99 for a streaming service a month, and then you can stream unlimited times, and it is so difficult. It has.
That's it.
But we can innovate. We will move forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, the other thing is that you can make some money from streaming, stuff like that. You know, if you get playlisted on Spotify, you know, if you have a hit record on Beatport. But again, I really see kind of Spotify as being the kind of the thing basically going forward. It's like, it's the new radio, really, isn't it? So
Yeah.
And actually, so a lot of producers out there will have, as I have, had their PRS statement for December to April. Mm-hmm. And do you know what's crazy? 80% of what I of my statement this quarter or whatever it is was from UK fitness classes.
What? That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy? From my track Wasted. Yeah. I would say 80% of that statement was made up of plays, of royalties from UK fitness classes. And that's because it would have got on a playlist at David Lloyd or whatever else. Yeah. But and that in itself is led by radio, you know, because Wasted got a lot of attention on Radio 1. So that then leads into that. But, you know, perhaps the point of innovation is there a like a layer, like a job layer there of people to pitch to playlists for things like shops, because, you know, as much as people want to hear stuff that you've heard on the radio and they recognise, you don't have to have the same 20 tracks playing all day, every day for the week, you know.
And it would be nice to hear new stuff and
exactly.
learn about new artists.
Exactly. So perhaps that's an innovation. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the other thing that now that I've had time to sit down and learn about, or sit down and have the time to kind of go through all this stuff, is like, I'm thinking, my God, I'm not going to earn any money from any gigs. So I need to like think of some ways to make money. Is like, right, let's go into PRS and let's go into PPL, like the Performance Rights Society. So whenever your track gets played in a bar or a gym or whatever, and find out how much, you know, I'm owed for that, or is my track even registered to be earning that money? Because you never know. So you know, the question is I guess there's two real questions there, right? One is, do we as artists need to learn how to market ourselves better? Undoubtedly, yes, right? And the next question, also undoubtedly yes, is, do we need to learn how to get the most out of all of our music with regards to revenue?
Yeah, that's hard for us to know everything to do, isn't it?
I don't know. I've been doing this for 15 years. I don't know what neighbouring rights are, what mechanical rights are. Like, I'm only just learning now.
I know, I go through contracts and nothing makes sense.
Exactly.
We're supposed to know how to do that.
We're supposed to know. But who tells us? Who's supposed to educate us about that?
Yeah.
You know, and in my mind, in an ideal world, schools should promote, you know, or have a whole part of the curriculum about art, being a musician. How do you, I mean, they should be teaching you how to fill out a tax return. How do they not teach you how to fill out a tax return, right?
They're teaching about Bitcoin now, so I'm hoping that there's going to be some more.
Okay, well, that's good.
I agree. Like the business side of the music industry, you know, we never learn about that, of course.
And as much as the creative part is the most important part, I totally agree. But it's not sustainable if you don't know how to support yourself.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, you know, there's millions of pounds lying there from unclaimed money from artists who haven't, you know, who don't realise they're owed that money.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So and you know, there's publishing companies and stuff like that. But anyway, I don't know. This is like, I'm just really getting into this stuff now because it's been such a
It's been rubbish for quite a lot of people, you know, and it's really nice to have these conversations. I was going to ask about you know, when we emerge out of this and some promoters, DJs, artists won't be able to, you know, move forward and they might have to go and get other work, like you said, you know, do you think people are still going to be able to afford these extortionate fees that people have been paying artists, and then like say, you know, the warm-up DJ gets 250 quid, for example?
Absolutely not. And actually, now you've mentioned that, it's made me realise it's not just that middle class that are going to suffer, it's that top tier of overinflated fees and like the industry side of the scene, you know, that will suffer because like they haven't got music to fall back on. They haven't got, like, everyone's sat at home now, and it's not like they can go, oh, we had the most amazing weekend at, you know, X Festival last weekend and it was insane, and we saw so and so and he was mind blowing, and when in actual fact he really wasn't mind blowing. You just had your mind blown from what, you know, many other things, and all your friends talk about how mind blowing it was, blah blah blah. But I think, you know, there's going to be a lot of like people who have these mega like media teams and stuff on their side that are going to be really thinking, oh my God, like I don't know what to do now.
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do? And it's the fresh, new, exciting talent that are going to take the world by storm. I think that's my prediction anyway.
I hope so. I hope we emerge out of this I think we're going to all transition and like learn a lot about ourselves, hopefully, in the process, and it'll be positive.
Absolutely.
This has been such an amazing chat.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I've been like ranting. I know that. I've been sitting here and like thinking.
No, I'm really happy that you have been. Is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Just apart from saying like thank you so much, guys, for your support and all these years, and there's lots of great music to look forward to from the label, and hopefully great music for myself that's going to be coming out. So keep tuned. And
production tutorials.
maybe.
No,
Let me make some music first, but why not? Absolutely.
I think you'd be great. Thank you so much, Archie Hamilton.
Thank you.
We'll be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock with Jaguar. See you later.
See you later, guys. Cheers. Bye.